You've got ideas, you've got ambition, you've got no time, or so you think. I'm Marissa Lonick, and I help busy moms with big dreams and no time. Join me each week as I dive into time management strategies, goal setting and achieving framework, and inspiring guests who are juggling mom life, work life, fill in the blank life. Dreams don't work unless you do, and just because you're a mom doesn't mean you can't still make it happen, whatever it means to you. Welcome to the Mama Work It podcast. Hey, mama friends. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Mama Work It podcast. So glad you're here. My name is Marissa Lonick. I am your host, working mama of 4 kiddos, and founder of Mama Work It, where we support women in the juggle of mom life, work life, wife life, fill in the blank life. Today, friends, we are talking all about a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I'm sure you've probably experienced it. I know I've experienced it several times before. And that topic is working mom burnout. This is a real thing. Working moms, we experience this maybe even more often than your typical person out there because we wear so many hats and we do so many things. But we're talking today not just about what this is and how it affects us, but we're talking about how to actually manage it, how to prevent it, how to avoid it, how to deal with it if it sneaks up and finds you. And the truth of the matter is, most people, when they find themselves in a season of burnout, don't actually know they're there. Like, it really can be one of those sneaky things that just gets you and surprises you and finds you, and you don't even know you're there already. And that's because what happens when you're in burnout is we all get stressed every now and then, right? And when you're stressed, you're supposed to kind of feel the stress and then recover, and feel the stress and then recover. But when you are in burnout, you just constantly stay at that stress level. And when you're there too long without a proper rest and recovery period, that can lead to burnout. And that tends to affect your mental health, your physical health, your overall wellness. And it is not a good place to be, especially for a long period of time. So today we're going to talk about it. We're not just going to kind of vent about it. We're not just going to complain about it. We're not just going to talk about the funny memes about it, even though those things are all out there and good. And trust me, I love a good meme. I love a good vent sesh with a friend. But I want to give you 5 actionable steps that you can be taking, again, to manage, prevent, avoid, deal with working mom burnout. So I'm going to encourage you, if you are in a safe place to do so, take some notes, write one of these things down, write all of these things down. Apply this into your life after today's episode. Take some action on it. I know you're here to learn, not just kind of listen to what's going on. And if you are not in a safe place to do that right now, maybe you're driving, maybe you're out running, maybe you are washing dishes while you're listening to this episode, that is okay. You can come back and listen again, or you can just remember and take action on at least one of these 5 tips. So here we go. Without further ado, let's dive right in. You know me, I like to just get down to business. So tip number 1 is this in managing working mom burnout. Take time off. Take time off. Take time to reset, to rest, to recharge. And you may be like, well, duh. And if you're feeling burnt out, it's like inevitable that you need to do this, that you need to take a PTO day or whatever that means. But I'm going to encourage you to take time off proactively. So don't wait until you get to, the day where you really just need to lock yourself in a dark room and binge Netflix and eat ice cream or, just not hear the name mom for the day. I'm going to encourage you to take time off before you hit this point. take it in advance. I once had a working mom friend who used to schedule a PTO day once every 6 weeks or something like that. And she would just take that day for herself. She would either, go through to-do list things that were annoying her and wanted to get done. She would, do something for herself, like go to the spa or get a mani-pedi or something like that. She would connect with friends. She would just maybe stay home and chill out, like whatever it was that she needed to do. But she would kind of take the day to reset, recharge, recalibrate. And she would do this religiously once every 6 weeks, a PTO day on her schedule. And that's how she managed not hitting burnout, is she had this kind of cyclical time off that she would do for herself. Now, I know this is not always as easy to do because sometimes we're having to take our PTO and our days off, not when we necessarily want to, but when we need to, like our kids are off from school or they're sick or fill in the blank. So if this is something you can do proactively, I would encourage you to do that. If you can't take the full day, maybe it's an afternoon, maybe it's a longer lunch hour, maybe it is, coming in a little bit later or taking an evening off from your typical mom duties to do something to reset and recharge. But make it work and make it work proactively if you can. So that is tip number 1. Tip number 2, when it comes to managing working mom burnout, talk about it. Talk about it. I just put something in a recent newsletter that had to do with this topic. And I think there's so much power in really just opening up and being vulnerable and talking to people about what we are experiencing. Talking to friends, talking to family, talking to your manager or your colleagues. Lean on your community. And I say this because what happens when you talk about something you're going through is, number 1, you can process it better because talking aloud helps us process often. I mean, I can tell you this, I'm a coach. People tell me all the time when they come to sessions, gosh, you didn't even say anything, but even just me talking about this has really helped me figure this out and process this and move forward. So that's one thing. It's just really good for processing. But number 2, it makes us feel like we're not alone in this challenge, in this season, in this situation we're in. Because when we feel isolated and alone, it's really hard to get out of it. But when we feel connected to other people that are either going through it with us or have been through it, or just have more empathy and understanding for what we're dealing with, it's like a burden is lifted. It's like we feel stronger, like we can get through this, like we feel more supported. So talk about it. Tip number 2, and choose the people that you feel safest, that you feel like are creating a safe space for you in order to talk about these challenges, or create that community. If you don't feel like you have one, go out and find one. All right. So that was tip number 2. Tip number 3 is make some changes. Make some changes. Now, these can be really small changes, like maybe you decide that you're going to start getting your groceries delivered instead of taking, 90 minutes out of your week every week to go grocery shopping. Or maybe you're going to decide to budget and hire a cleaning service twice a month in your home so that you're not spending that time, scrubbing your floors or cleaning your bathrooms or folding laundry or whatever it is. So maybe there's small changes, like just outsourcing more tasks, more things to get off your plate. Maybe they're bigger changes. Maybe they're bigger changes like you want to change careers, or you want to, go from being an employee to an entrepreneur, or an entrepreneur to an employee. Whatever that looks like to you, maybe there's some changes that can happen in your day-to-day life that will help create more of the balance you need right now in this season. And I just want to point out that change is really hard. I get that. Most people don't always embrace change. It can really knock you knock you kind of off your normal day to day and just make you feel really uncomfortable out of your comfort zone. But I want to remind you that nothing in this life is permanent. Nothing is permanent. So if you just change is really the only constant, right? So if you decide to make some sort of change and you're really scared about making this change, know that you can always change again, right? You can always make another change. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing decision here. And so if that feels scary, if it feels like, well, I don't know if I can, afford the cleaning service forever, well, maybe you just need it right now for the next 3 months. Maybe you just need to do the grocery delivery this week because it's insane and you just need to do some little changes to help yourself to not hit that burnout. Or maybe it is some bigger changes with regards to your work-life balance, with regards to your career, with regards to just how you're living life in this season. So maybe think about making some changes. All right, tip number 4 is all about, I love this tip, all about habits and routines. Habits and routines. I love me a good routine. I love habits. I feel like these are effortless ways to manage the day-to-day, just ways to help yourself streamline all the things that need to get done, all the hats you are wearing, and allow for more simplicity because they're effortless. They're things that just come naturally to you. Once you've created a habit, a routine, you don't have to put all this motivation and effort and energy into what you're doing. It sort of just happens. Does it take some effort to get there? It absolutely does. Habits typically take 21 days to stick. Routines, they can take even a little bit longer. But once you're there, once you've created this, it is such a game changer in how you are able to manage the working mom life, especially. So, I've created podcast episodes on morning routines. I am a huge fan of having a morning routine, especially one that is pouring into you before your day begins serving others. I'm all about evening routines because I love ending my day feeling like I've got everything prepped and ready for the next day, and everything's kind of like my kitchen's clean, my stuff's picked out for the next morning, like whatever decisions I can make the night before, just all that good stuff. I love a good evening routine. Also recorded an episode on that. We'll link those in today's show notes. Don't worry if you haven't listened. I love habits. Like I have a habit of packing my kids' lunches the night before. I think that sets up my next day for total success. And so I've gotten into the habit of doing that after dinner when I'm cleaning up. That's part of my cleanup process. I love even instilling routines in my kids. So for example, having a routine of the kids filling their own water bottles each morning, or the kids putting their lunch bags and their snacks in their own backpacks each morning. That's a routine that we had after school. Emptying their backpacks, emptying their lunch bags, putting the little ice thing back in the freezer. That's part of the routine, changing clothes. So any sort of habits, routines that you can implement are definitely going to be helpful in minimizing that burnout because these are, again, effortless tasks that are getting done, and not just for you, but for others in your house too. These are great ways to do that. Now, if you're one of those people that has a really hard time getting habits to stick, I'm going to plug right here a free gift that I would love to give you. It is my habit accountability tracking tool. I will link it in today's show notes. It's an excellent resource. It has helped me. It has helped clients get new habits to stick. It is a really, really great resource. So if that is something you're like, oh, I always try to get a new habit to stick, but after day 5 or day 7 or day 10, I typically fall off the bandwagon, this resource is going to help you. So definitely check that out. All right, we are moving on to our final tip of ways to manage working mom burnout today. And that tip is tip number 5, which is schedule in proactive self-care. Schedule in proactive self-care. Now, I know there's a lot of stuff out there about self-care, and I know when I close my eyes or when I ask people to close their eyes too and think about what does self-care look like to you? The answer that I typically will get and like what comes to mind first for me too is like a spa day or like getting my nails done or a massage or a facial or something like that. And girlfriend, those are absolutely ways to think about self-care and they totally count. But that's not the only thing that self-care is. It can look like a widespread arrangement of different things. And so I'm going to encourage you. What does this look like to you? What does self-care look like to you? And I'm going to encourage you to make a list of like anything and everything that fills your cup, because anything that fills your cup equals self-care in my book. So sometimes for me, that looks like those, luxurious spa treatments. And sometimes it looks like drinking a hot cup of coffee in silence. And sometimes it even looks like decluttering a closet in my house. And sometimes it looks like doing something creative, like an art project or a DIY project. It can look like 100 different things, probably even more than 100 different things. But I'm going to encourage you, make a list, again, of anything and everything that fills your cup. That's your self-care list. And why I say proactively do this is because you don't want to wait until you're, again, on the verge of like burnout or a meltdown or something where like you're just so depleted that you are like, you don't even know what self-care is at that point. You want to do this proactively. You want to schedule in like a daily block. And I don't care if this block is 15 minutes a day. But if you've got this daily block and you've got this list of all these things that make you feel good, that fill your cup, which by the way, some days it's some things and some days it's others, that can change. You have this kind of toolkit and resource that you can do to kind of proactively be pouring into that cup before it gets depleted. And by scheduling this block in daily, you're prioritizing this and not letting everything else feel like a priority where you just kind of need to squeeze in the self-care wherever you can. No, you have to treat the self-care as the priority. Because if your cup's not full, you can't do all the other things. You can't be the amazing mom. You can't be the incredible employee. You can't be the awesome CEO. You can't be the really loving wife. You can't be all those things if you're feeling completely depleted. And even if you are showing up in that energy as best you can, it doesn't feel authentic. It starts to feel resentful. It starts to feel really hard to show up in that way. And so again, tip number 5, schedule in some proactive self-care, prioritize the care around everything else. Don't let everything else take the priority. The care is the priority, even if it's a small block every single day, and have a go-to list of what that looks like, because it can change day to day. It can even change from morning to night, honestly. Sometimes a workout feels like self-care in the morning, but at night, it doesn't, because I'm tired by that point, and that doesn't feel like self-care to me then. Self-care at that point in the day feels like a hot cup of tea or something like more relaxing. So those are my tips. Let me review them one more time for you. 5 ways to manage working mom burnout. Tip number 1, take time off. Reset, recharge. Try to do this proactively before you do actually hit the burnout stage. Tip number 2, talk about it. Community is so important, especially when you're feeling burnt out. Tip number 3, make some changes, little changes, big changes, whatever they need to be, but you probably need to make some changes if going at this speed, at this level, juggling all these balls is not working for you. Tip number 4, create habits and routines, effortless ways to manage the day to day. And finally, tip number 5, schedule in proactive self-care. Prioritize this before other things in life. All right, mama friends, that is that short and sweet episode today. 5 ways to manage working mom burnout. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you apply one or even all 5 of these tips. Let me know what your favorite tip was. Please, if you can, leave a review of the show Always appreciate reading those. If you want to share this episode with a working mom friend, that would make my day. Thank you so much for listening. Keep on working it, and I will see you next time. Bye. You've been listening to the Mama Work It podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and would love if you could take a quick minute to leave me a review on whichever platform you're listening from, and maybe even send a note to a fellow mama friend recommending it. Reviews and recs help this podcast grow and reach more like-minded, awesome moms. And if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click that button so we can stay in touch, girl. By the way, if you haven't checked out the Mama Work It website, please do. There are lots of free resources and great articles there that can help you with the juggle of work life, mom life, wife life, fill in the blank life. So head on over. Thanks again for being part of the tribe. I'll see you soon, but in the meantime, keep on working it, mama.